If you had the technology that we have now back then, Facebook, MySpace, texting, webcams even, do you think things would have been different?
I don't know. You know, I don't even know how to answer that. It's hard to say. And I think something about Mychele and I's relationship was this innocence. And it was before all of this Facebook, and it was before all of this technology. And not saying that you can't experience that kind of love anymore, but I think there was such a genuineness and an innocence to the fact that our letters were handwritten, and just a voice on a phone is all we had, you know, when we were apart. There was something so powerful about that I don't think you get in today's technology. There's something that's lost in that gap of technology, and I don't know. I don't know that it would be any different, any better, any worse. But I do know that when I think of Mychele, when I think of what we had, it's so far beyond the technology, you know, that I don't know that it would have changed anything.
So it really sounds like the distance was the big factor in your breakup, because you left to pursue a career.
Correct.
So have you truly forgiven yourself for that?
You know, I think writing this book was part of that forgiveness. I don't think I had forgiven myself. I think I had bottled so much up of the guilt and of the kind of the unworthiness to have another relationship this good, because I blew what I had. And I think all along the way I felt like, you know, I had something, you know, that God had given me that was so amazing and so great, and not realizing at the moment how amazing it was, and how rare it was to find somebody that you can truly call your soulmate. And I think I did hold on to that for a long time, and hold on to the guilt. And writing this book, I did not realize when I sat down and started writing it what it was going to become, but it was a huge healing process in that. And what I realized is I had these rules of dating. And my rules of dating, there were essentially 3 rules. I'm not going to tell you what they were, but there were essentially 3 rules of dating. But my rules of dating were established essentially for me to find another Mychele. And what I realized in writing this book is there's no replacing Mychele. There's no finding another Mychele. And it's okay to move on. And I think coping with that loss, I mean, because there was a loss there, and realizing that it's okay to move on. And she's moved on, you know, and she's got a wonderful family now, that it gave me permission to move on too. And I've looked at dating in a different perspective since then, and it's helped me immensely. It's really kind of changed my whole perspective on the possibility of having a future with someone else.
Now, you mentioned that you reconnected on Facebook a little bit, but what is your relationship with Mychele like today?
Mychele and I today, we chat on Facebook. That is basically it. And there's a reason for that. When we've discussed it, we reconnected on Facebook, and just messaging, instant messaging, or typing messages to each other, that is a safe way for us to communicate. Because here's something that we realized in collaborating with this book and in the process of reuniting, Mychele and I never fell out of love. We never had that chance to fall out of love. I moved away and we drifted apart. And because of that, now with her having a family, with her having a husband, and with her having kids, I have absolute total respect for relationships and for marriages, and I would never want to do anything that would harm someone's marriage. And for that, I feel like Facebook connecting, and normally we're talking about, she's asking me about my nephews, and I'm asking her about her children. You know, we're talking about our families. It's very innocent. If we were to meet again, if we were to actually talk on the phone again, I've not heard her voice, you know, since this book has been written, or you know, for the past almost 15 years. You know, some of that passion and some of that love that we never let go could obviously, you know, spark again. And that just wouldn't be healthy for where she's at and where I'm at in life right now.
Given that connection that you two had, I noticed that there's no pictures of the two of you in this book. Why is that?
Well, there is a picture. The cover actually has Mychele's eyes. And those are her eyes on the front. A little elusive, I know, yes. Kind of hidden in there. Initially, there was the thought of putting some of Mychele and I's photos in there. But what I realized when people were writing me these letters on Facebook, after reading the Facebook story, or reading the letter as it was before it was turned into a book, was that they connected with it on a personal level. And I felt like these people were putting themselves in the place of Mychele and I, and almost reliving it in that way. And I thought, why put a face with the story when they could kind of, without a face, they could, kind of use their own imagination and put themselves in that story.
You had mentioned that your memories of Mychele were holding you back from truly moving on. So subconsciously, or maybe even consciously, were you comparing other girls?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I didn't realize that early on. And I don't think I realized that really until the last few years, when I had failed after failed relationship. And I did find that I was comparing other girls to Mychele. And no one was going to live up to that passion and that expectation I had of them being another Mychele. So yeah, I think I really was holding that against them. I think I was fleeing from relationships way too early because they weren't matching up to my expectation of what it could be or what it should be. And like I mentioned, writing the book has been a coping process and a healing process with that. Not just for me, but for other people who have read this, have shared with me the same thing, that it's been a healing process for them too. So I'm glad that in some way my pain and suffering of writing this down and sharing it has been a positive for other people.
So do you think you've truly moved on and accepted the fact that she's not the one you're going to marry?
I think I have. I really do. It's taken a lot to say that, because I think for many years, it's not that I didn't think, or that I thought she and I were going to reconnect and that she was still going to be the one. I honestly had just settled in the fact that I was going to be single, and that I wasn't going to have another relationship, because there was nothing, to me, there was nothing that could be this good again. And I've always been content in my single life. I've never regretted it. I love, everything I do. I keep busy, and I love the activities I do and the work that I do. And I think I always had this feeling that if another relationship couldn't come along that was as great as what Mychele and I had, that it wasn't worth it, and then it wasn't worth giving everything up for. And in the process of doing that, or of realizing that, I think I come to a place now of realizing that, I am worthy of another chance and of experiencing love again. And I do hope that I can find that person that I feel is my soulmate. You ask the question, is there more than one soulmate? Is it possible? And that is the biggest challenge, is if Mychele was my soulmate, then how is it possible to move on? And that's still something I ask myself. But I have come to the conclusion that Mychele's not the only one for me, and yeah, I can move on without it being Mychele.
In the book, you say that you wonder if you're helplessly hopeless.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think if the right girl came along, though, that she could reignite the hopeless romantic in you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I am a passionate person. I'm passionate about everything I do, about my work, about my relationships. And I do believe when the person comes along who can inspire that kind of passion in me again, I believe it can be true. I believe it can happen again.
You also said that you approach relationships wearing a bulletproof vest.
Mm-hmm.
Is your heart really open to finding that kind of love again?
Is it open? Yes, with time. I still approach each relationship with a bulletproof vest. And I do that not only for my safety, but also for their safety. Because I think I realized that I never want to hurt somebody again like I hurt her. And in the process of coping with this, I hurt many other girls that we started relationships along the way. And then, for whatever purpose, I found a reason to escape, not feeling like I was worthy or not feeling like she was the one. And I hurt many other girls in the process. So I still wear a bulletproof vest, but I wear it just as much for them as for me. And I approach relationships very cautiously. And I do, but at the same time, I do open myself up. Once I get in that comfort level, once I get into that point where I really feel like this could be the person, then absolutely, I'm willing to open my heart up. I had a good friend of mine, my friend Elizabeth, told me she read the book and she said, well, you're going to be single the rest of your life because women are going to be terrified of this.
Now you're in a current relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think this book helps your relationship?
The book
How does
itself.
your current girlfriend feel about that?
Well,